The crater basin that served as Fort Meridian shuddered under another direct hit, cracking the fused glass parapets and blowing geysers of powdered regolith across the sensor masts. Captain Arya Kessler felt the tremor through her boots. Even inside the burrowed command gallery 30 meters down, all displays flickered crimson. Outside, the sky was a permanent bruise, swirling storms of violet spores released by the invaders. Clouds so thick they sometimes blotted out Tantalus's primary sun. "Situation update," she barked. Lieutenant Saito, face streaked with coolant and blood equally black under emergency lighting, pointed at a hollow map. "Enemy bioartillery massing on Quadrant 7. Looks like another push. We've got 2 functioning railguns left. One is overheating, the other's out of penetrators. Rations and ammo at 40%. Kessler exhaled through her teeth. It had been 100 standard hours since the first biomorph meteor shells cracked open, disgorging colonies of slithering siege organisms. The creatures genetically engineered leviathans of cartilage and chitin were equal parts factory, soldier, and siege engine. They burrowed through climate domes, spat acids that could plate steel, and wove living bridges over trenches. The Navy had promised orbital support in 5 days. 5. They'd be lucky to see dawn. She keyed the command net. "Echo Regiment, this is Cap. We hold until reinforcements land or hell freezes. You signed on for shock trooper duty knowing the actuarial tables." Static crackled. Troopers in disparate shafts of the moon responded with clipped acknowledgments, some with gallows humor, more with grim silence. Private First Class Juno Dell, youngest in the regiment, chimed in. "Cap, Chain Squad reports tunnels under Sector 3 partially intact. They think we can get behind the swarm mass." That sparked an idea. Fort Meridian had been built over a maze of old ice mining tunnels, abandoned once the terraformers tapped deeper aquifers. The biomorph's greatest strength was raw brutality above ground. Beneath the surface, they were slower, less aware. She punched comms to Master Sergeant Carlos Chains Mendoza. "Meet me at Shaft Kilo. Bring cutting charges and anyone still breathing." Minutes later, Kessler sealed her helmet and ascended the maglift to the hangar lip. The surface looked alien now. Biovines coiling up shattered antenna spires, pools of electric blue ichor where railgun slugs had ruptured monstrosities as big as dropships. Overhead, huge translucent sails, living kites tethered to the ground by intestinal cables, harvested wind energy for the invaders' metabolism. Each grotesque bloom pumped nutrients into the hive mass, slowly surrounding Fort Meridian. Mendoza was already there, gray in the beard and mag boots crunching encrusted ice, cradling a flechette shotgun like a lover. Around him clustered 9 soldiers. Dell, wearing a minesweeper harness too big for her frame, Riekoff the sapper, lugging a coil of debt gel, twin ex-parrot Kojo and Keto, with plasma scorches still visible on their breastplates, and 4 more patched-up killers whose names Kessler barely knew, but whose courage she trusted implicitly. "Plan?" Mendoza asked. Kessler projected the hollow. "We punch through ice tunnels under Sector 3, sneak beneath their artillery nodules, plant shape charges, and let the roof collapse. That buys us breathing space. During the chaos, Saito fires our last Magneto-Lance rounds from Gun 2, and we launch every orbital drop tank we've got left right into their command node." Kojo whistled. "You mean the tanks the Navy left us as museum pieces? Half of them don't start. Then fix them," Kessler snapped. "They were designed to be fired from low orbit, but we can airburst them from our own mortar chutes. Retro thrusters will ignite. Tanks land in the enemy's lap full of volunteers. We sweep and clear." Dell's eyes widened. "Volunteers?" Kessler held her gaze. "Command node goes down. The biomorph lattice collapses. Our chance to turn siege into counteroffensive. Anyone unwilling to ride a 400-ton coffin can stay topside." No one stepped back. The joke in Echo Regiment was that courage wasn't voluntary anymore. It was mandatory through peer pressure. They dropped into Shaft Kilo's darkness lit only by helmet lamps. The air grew colder, drier. Frost crystals caked the walls, sparkling as the team moved deeper. Drills whined. Rykov set a miniature rail bore that chewed through permafrost in seconds, leaving a tunnel just wide enough for armored troopers to crawl. They progressed meter by meter, sonar mapping biomass vibrations overhead. Above them, monstrous seismic signatures prowled titanic siege beasts, nicknamed organ guns for the way their thoraxes housed living cannons. Every time one of those walked, dust rained from the tunnel ceiling. Once, acidic drool seeped down the shaft, hissing on contact with steel. Dell slapped quickfoam to neutralize it, her hands trembling yet precise. After 2 kilometers, Mendoza raised a fist. Everyone froze. He flicked his shoulder lamp off and listened. Even through pressurized suits, they heard a rhythmic thrum, pump-like contractions, the biomorph artillery priming to fire. Kessler whispered, "We're beneath their ammo gland. Rykov?" The sapper unpacked DEET gel bricks, shaped them into petals around a superconductor core. "We'll blow upward. Whole gland collapses, sympathetic detonation, should chain to the next 3 nodes. Timer for 3 minutes, she ordered. We double time back to junction, then lateral to the secondary objective. Explosive charges, armed, they retreated. The tunnel ceiling already sagged as though sensing the violation. 50 meters away, Kessler counted down on a silent HUD countdown. At 0, the moon shook. Sound doesn't travel far in vacuum, but underground, vibrations slammed them like a freight hauler. Dust clouds erupted. The ceiling cracked. Glacier ice splintered, and a shock wave flung Dell into Kessler's arms. Alarms blared inside helmets, pressure spikes, micro-fractures, but the tunnel held. "Railgun artillery silence," Saito confirmed over comms, voice giddy. "Reading massive biomass collapse on 7s and 8s. Cap, you punched their teeth out." "Not yet." Kessler motioned forward. They maneuvered to an upward shaft left over from water prospecting days. At the top, Kessler pried open a hatch. Faint lavender daylight spilled through. She sent Kojo's drone first. It peaked above ground, relaying images. Organ guns reduced to twitching stumps. Rivers of fluorescent sap, and most importantly, central nerve clusters exposed like raw marrow. Rykov laughed, a coarse, manic sound. "Opportunity of a lifetime. We can feed coordinates to Gun 2. Kessler tapped into Fort Meridian's fire control. "Saito, align Gun 2 on bearings 46 by 91, depression 2 degrees, rapid sequence, empty the capacitor." 15 seconds later, the fortress's surviving railgun roared. Each tungsten slug screamed overhead at 5 kilometers per second, punching through gelatinous towers. Thunderous booms echoed in low gravity, sending debris arcing kilometers high before falling in silent, lethal rain. Within minutes, whole sections of the invader line fell quiet, but new signals blossomed in their places. Serpentine carrier forms uncoiled, birthing aerial drones, patching gaps with speed impossible for mechanical armies. The biomorphs learned as fast as they bled. "We're on the clock," Kessler said. "Tanks ready?" "Affirm," Seitel replied. 3 functional Mark IV drop mauls, each loaded with a squad fusion cores at 90, can't guarantee reactors will stay contained once they slam. That's the point. Kessler's team sprinted for Fort Meridian, using collapsed tunnels to stay hidden. They emerged inside the motor pool, where techs swarmed over old drop maul steel giants with ablative hulls scorched from half a dozen planet-side descents. Kojo and Kido were lashing ammo crates to the interior bulkheads, flechettes, anti-armor missiles, canisters of thermobaric nanogel. Chain guns clicked as feed belts were tested. The machines groaned like waking lions. Troopers boarded. Kessler climbed into Alpha Tank's commander Coppola. Dell slid into gunnery, cheeks flushed with fear or excitement. It was impossible to tell. Mendoza strapped in at the breech door, shotgun slung, brandishing a boarding axe pilfered from some antique display. Fort Meridian's mortar chutes were essentially vertical subway tunnels, once used to send cargo pods to low orbit. Now, with their launch cradles refitted, they served as a poor man's mass driver. The drop mauls rolled onto magnetic sleds, hydraulic clamps locked, warning klaxons howled. "Alpha, Beta, Gamma," Saito transmitted. "You are green to drop on my count." A pause. Static crackled. 5, 4, 3. Kessler's stomach clenched. Drop! Sled slammed downward. Gravity flipped. Steel screamed. Everyone's organs leapt into their throats. In 3 seconds, the tanks shot through Fort Meridian's crust, broke the surface, and soared hundreds of meters into the violet storm before arc thrusters ignited. External cameras revealed the biomorph killing field. Tangled spires, pools of acid, scuttling horrors, but also gaping craters from the earlier demolition. Alpha nosed down. Retro thrusters fired. A roar like a continuous thunderclap filled the hull. The tank punched into enemy ground with the impact of a small meteor, smashing tendrils, squashing drone swarms, gouging a crater and coughing up dust. Internal mag gyros whined, righting the chassis. Hull integrity, 73%, Dell reported. Drive motors functional. Open her up, Kessler commanded. The breech door blew outward on explosive hinges. Echo troopers spilled into chaotic daylight, guns blazing. Mendoza led the charge, axe cleaving at whipping tentacles. Lasers scored glowing trenches. Shotgun flechettes shredded fleshy drones that burst in chemical flashes. Kessler advanced with a rotary Gauss cannon mounted on an exo brace, each burst turning yard-long slugs into hypersonic needles. Biomorph armor parted like wet bark. Still the creatures adapted. Skin hardened, formed crystalline scales, excreted counter-acid mists. Some drones fused into towers in real time, extruding spines that fired bone shards. But Echo was already moving, tunneling charges in hand. Their goal, the central command node, a brain-like mass, kilometers wide, pulsing under a translucent dome of keratin. If they could jam nuclear material into its ventricular shaft, runaway fission would cook the node from inside. The Navy's promised fleet would have a clean shot later. Kessler had no intention of waiting. Beta and Gamma tanks hammered parallel vectors, drawing enemy focus. Over comms came frantic yet exultant cries. Gamma's reactor was breaching. The crew rigged it into a colossal bomb. Kessler winced, but acknowledged the war often demanded that heroism be converted directly into megatons. Alpha's route led through what scouts dubbed the cloister, a maze of ribbed arches grown from biobone, humming with neural traffic. Echo planted EMP grenades at junctions. Detonations flashed blue, neural hums stuttered, and structures wilted like overcooked muscle. Inside those arches, white slurry pulsed nutrient coolant for the hive cognitive tissue. Dell's eyes lit. Cap, if we poison that coolant with reactor waste, do it. She unhooked a canister of spent tritium plates and hurled it into the flow. The slurry carried it instantly upstream toward the dome. Alarms flared across the hive. A psychic shriek, a subsonic wave pounded armored helmets. Kessler staggered, nose bleeding. The command node sensed existential threat. From the ground, new monstrosities erupted. Cherub guardians, compact, quadrupedal, their heads ringed with rotating saw teeth. They charged with horrifying speed. Mendoza let loose cuss words in 5 languages. Gauss fire bounced off their chitin. Kojo and Keto embraced martyrdom, igniting a thermobaric gel pack at point blank. The explosion vaporized half the squad along with a dozen guardians, scarring the landscape into a molten glass bowl. Shrapnel pinged off Kessler's armor, a chunk embedded near her kidney plate, sensors flashing red. Pain blossomed, but training compartmentalized it. She pulled Mendoza clear. They were only survivors of the detonation besides Dell, who crouched by a scorched buttress. Visor cracked, eyes wild. Cap, Dell gasped, voice tiny. Our odds? Better than yesterday, Kessler said. They reached the perimeter of the command dome. It loomed taller than any cathedral, oily light rippling over its semi-transparent shell. Through it, great lobes of pinkish tissue pulsed in sync with planetary seismic data. Tendril conduits pulsed life to every invader organ alive on Tantalus. Alpha tank, autopilot now, rumbled up, carrying Gamma's overloading reactor core chained to its rear deck. Its AI beeped acknowledgement, mission parameter understood. Risk acceptable. The machine-gunned engines, treads churning gore and muck, and smashed straight into the dome. Keratin plates fractured. Psychosomatic shockwaves rippled across the battlefield. Biomorph drones spasmed, guidance losing coherence. Inside Alpha, remote thrusters flared one final time, forcing the reactor deeper until its containment cracked. A sun ignited. First a blinding white sphere, then a rolling ball of blue-white fury, expanding under the dome like an angry god manifest. The shockwave raced outward, scouring flesh, bone, and steel alike. Kessler barely managed to drag Mendoza and Dell into a shell crater as energy slapped them. Armor plating blistered, outer coatings peeled, suits screamed thermal alarms. Then a hush fell. The violet sky had cleared to bruise green, particulate matter sucked upward by convection columns. The command dome was gone, replaced by a growing crater lit from beneath by molten rivers of biomorph ichor. Across the plain, invader structures sagged. Without centralized instruction, organisms reverted to primal forms. Predatory but uncoordinated. Echo-remnant forces emerged from foxholes, cheers echoing on open comms. But victory was still provisional. High above, streaks of light marked incoming objects. More meteoric pods. Reinforcements. The biomorphs had contingencies. Kessler opens strategic long-range channel. FleetNet, this is Fort Meridian Actual. Command node neutralized. Enemy in disarray, but more pods incoming. If you have birds in the black, now's the time. An unfamiliar voice answered. Admiral Havelock himself. Copy, Meridian. Battle Group Orion translating out of FDL within the hour. We've tracked the pods. They're blind without the node you erased. Hold the line. Fire rains soon. For the first time in days, Kessler allowed herself a grin. Blood dripped from her chin onto cracked visor, but she laughed anyway. Mendoza coughed beside her, one arm shredded beyond use. Looks like you bought us a sunrise, he muttered. Maybe even a sunset, she countered. Yet Echo Regiment's work wasn't done. Scanners showed isolated clusters of biomorphs rallying under emergent subnodes. Cut one brain, another sprouts. The war could tip either way until the fleet arrived. She gathered the ragged survivors, barely 30 troopers from the original 300. They scavenged ammo from the dead, jury-rigged energy packs, and patched armor with biomorph keratin. Dell approached, trembling. Cap, I never asked for this. Kessler placed a gauntleted hand on the young woman's shoulder. None of us did. But history seldom requests consent. It drafts the unwilling and measures them by aftermath. Saito's voice cut in, Gon 2 capacitor recharged. We scrounged penetrators from the old maglev rails. Targets? Fresh pods breaching stratosphere. We can swat maybe half on approach. Do it. She turned to her battered squad. Echo. We push again. Guerrilla tunnels under that ridge lead to pod impact zone delta. We plant charges before those things hatch. Mendoza smiled despite bloodied teeth. You know, Cap, for a woman who just nuked an alien god, you plan small. Call it professional focus. They moved out, feet crunching over glass and bone fragments. Above them, railgun streaks painted silver arcs. Each distant impact blossomed into white flashes as ascending pods were punctured mid-descent. Debris rained harmlessly or atomized in the thin atmosphere. Closer impacts landed with thuds, birthing fresh horror. Echo used what they knew: tunnels, explosives, and audacity. Kessler guided teams through old lava tubes, surfacing beneath nascent hives, inserting shells of death shell, and slipping away before the ground erupted. They fought not for ground, but for hours, stalling until the sky lit with the long-awaited starlight of human reinforcements. When Battle Group Orion finally broke orbit, its warships cast kilometer-long shadows across Tantalus. Descending corvettes disgorged swarms of drones and medevac shuttles. Planetary strike cannons fired shafts of light that carved rifts into alien veins. The terraformed moonwants on the brink roared back with human fury multiplied by industrial might. Kessler watched from a ridgeline, leaning on her Gauss cannon like a staff. Dell stood beside her, visor off now, breathing tainted yet survivable air. The sky burned with falling debris. Auroras danced in colors never recorded by spectrometers. "Beautiful," Dell whispered. "Costly," Kessler replied. Below, medical teams ferried wounded. Dreadnoughts rained kinetic rods, smashing remaining hives into vitrified craters. Biomorph resistance crumbled, a mosaic of disconnected reflexes. Admiral Havelock personally landed a command shuttle near Fort Meridian's blasted courtyard. When he stepped out, dress whites, immaculate, his gaze lingered on the wrecked gun towers, the twisted tank husks, the squad of soot-caked soldiers awaiting him at attention. "Captain Kessler," he said, "salute crisp. You kept this moon alive." She returned the salute, gloves torn, armor scorched. "Not me, Admiral. Echo Regiment. Railguns. Tunnels. Improvisation." Havelock's eyes softened. "And audacity." "I've recommended citation for every survivor, posthumous honors for the fallen." Kessler's reply was flat. "They'd trade medals for breath." The Admiral nodded. "In 2 hours we begin mop-up. Fleet intelligence warns the biomorphs might still possess dormant spores. We need veterans of close contact to advise." "Up for another tour?" Kessler looked at her people. Dell with haunted eyes, yet unbroken spirit. Mendoza, arm and sling, smirking like the devil. Saito in a mag chair, lower half gone, still offering tactical suggestions. They had nothing left but each other and the war. She faced Havelock. "Echo Regiment reports for duty." Somewhere overhead, the sun finally pierced the spore haze, casting gold light upon ruined domes and crater lakes. Steam rose where snow met molten alien flesh. The terraformed moon breathed free air again, tinged with the scent of ozone and victory. And though distant stars promised more wars, more moons to defend or reclaim, for this heartbeat of cosmic time, humanity had flipped a hopeless siege into thunderous counteroffensive, using railgun artillery, orbital drop tanks, and the defiant stubbornness of ragtag shock troopers, unwilling to surrender even their own graves.